Hello, Ashley here, back with episode 73 of the Maverick Mompreneur podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I can't believe we're on episode 73. I haven't taken a week off. You guys, that's wild. But it's not. It's about consistency and the long game, and that is the topic of today's podcast. This episode I actually recorded as a live video in my Facebook group, Elevate Academy. I did record it without my normal equipment, so the sound quality is not great. There's a lot more pauses and ums and things like that, but I hope that the quality of the content and the quality of the message totally overpowers that and you're not bothered by the sound quality. We're talking about things that people who achieve their goals, especially achieve their goals and continue achieving. What are those things that they do? And how can we take those simple yet very effective concepts and apply those to our businesses, to results that we want in the gym, to results that we want in our relationships and our faith? So I hope you get a lot of benefit out of this aspect, even if it's not just business related. You'll also hear me mention the program that I'm currently promoting right now. It's called the Content Creation Solution. I'm not sure that I'll ever do this program again live. It's something that I want to record, give birth to, if you will, and have out there as a self-paced course. However, if I'm going to shoot a course, might as well make it an interactive process. So there's going to be 3 training drops, but at the end of the week, there will be a live Q&A with me that those who take the course live will have the opportunity to ask questions. It's only $111 until Monday, the 20th at midnight. And so that is a freaking steal, even when the price increases for a live program and the amount of transformative business, game-changing, transformative information that you're going to receive and all the templates and the workbook and everything else, even the increased price is still a steal. So I will leave a link for you, which will either be to the live version, or if you're listening to this later on, it will be to the self-paced course. But get in on that if you can, if you are listening to this in real time, and I'll see you on the inside. Let's get started with today's podcast. Hey mama, I'm Ashley, and this is the Maverick Mompreneur podcast, where you're free and encouraged to own your desire to create and scale an impactful, discoverable online brand and business in the midst of motherhood. A business that's aligned with your mission, lifestyle desires, personality, and zone of genius without wasting your time on the hustle and grind hamster wheel that is social media. Can I get an amen? Sis, you are a maverick, an original, willing to stand out in your authenticity, defy expectations, and do life and business outside the box. In our world, if it's not aligned with who we are, it's a hard pass or a brave pivot. So if you're here for the powerful identity shift and transformation from boss babe or boss mom to aligned CEO, building a one-of-a-kind, influential, hustle-free online business that will produce long-term impact and multiple streams of income through SEO, affiliate marketing, and courses, while building yourself in the process, well, pop in those AirPods, grab that cup of coffee or glass of wine, and let's get growing. I've been talking about content repurposing, creating content with new AI and Chat GTP and all of this crazy, cool, amazing stuff. And then also the type of content that can't be generated from AI, which is content like this. The combination of those two is what I believe will take you to the absolute next level. The Chat GTP, the Open AI, that is going to be game changing for generating content ideas, for writing sales pages for you if you're not a copywriter. There's so many things that can be done when you learn the technology that replaces hours and hours of work and so much mental load, and it's going to be game changing. But I believe that there are things that can never be replaced, and that's you, your message, your personality, how you show up. But the artificial intelligence and the systems, the content creation solution, that is what is going to allow you to show up so much more powerfully, because you're not spending all of that effort on trying to figure out how to wordsmith everything and do all this market research and all of these things that now AI can do. So plug for the content creation solution, doors close when we start. It's 3 days. So 3 days of training, fire, all the things that you will need to learn in order to create consistent, captivating content without losing your mind. Like this will literally change your game. Come participate, learn, implement. You're going to be like, where was this all my life? You're going to freaking blow it up. I know it. If you implement, of course. But I can only do what I can do, which is to teach and transmit knowledge and pump you up, set you on your way to go crush it. Speaking of that, so the topic for today's live is what 8% of people who actually achieve their goals. And I just pulled that just for the headline. There's research on people who achieve their like New Year's resolution goals. And so that's the only one I could find definitively that 8% of people achieve their New Year's resolution goals. And then there's this other 92% of people who don't. So what is it that the 8% or the elite goal achiever category of people, what are they doing differently that the rest of us or the rest of that 92% aren't doing? I want to talk about it because I had this situation come up and originally I was not going to share any of it because it felt silly. And frankly, I was a little bit embarrassed. And then it hit me today that no, I actually do need to share this because it seems silly, but it's not. Okay, so let me back up and tell you what the scenario is. There was this transformation challenge through my gym, which is Orange Theory. Total fan over here. I love it. So the transformation challenge was based on a few criteria. It was an 8-week challenge and you had to work out 3 times for 6 out of the 8 weeks. And so I looked at that part and was like, well, I'm already doing that. So that's kind of a no-brainer. So I'll enter it based just on that. But then the other component was in order to win or be competitive in this, they were doing a pre-scan. So like day 1 or before you start the challenge, a scan, this body scan of your body fat percentage, your weight, and then whatever the name is, you could have someone who, think about a really muscly, huge guy that has like 0% body fat, but a ton of muscle. That person could be considered obese based on their weight alone. But looking at the whatever that name is for that thing, they're actually like incredibly, like their percentage of muscle over fat is this way. Okay. So there's a term for that. So then they were going to look at the biggest change overall in those factors. So you couldn't just lose a bunch of weight, right? You had to show an increase in your muscle mass, a decrease in your body fat percentage. They didn't want it to be all about weight. So initially when I heard this, being that I knew I was already going to be working out that amount of times at that gym anyway, I got all excited and the prize was really good. You get your membership paid for a certain amount of months. I'm like, that is awesome. Of course I'm going to try. And I came up with all these wackadoodle criteria. I'm going to cut out everything. I'm just going to eat protein out the wazoo. I'm going to switch everything up. I'm not going to drink at all. I'm going to crush this. And I had this plan from the outset. I didn't implement this plan. This is key. I had this crazy plan to win, and I was just going to go balls to the wall and change all these things up and do all the things and not do all the things. And then about 2 days before the challenge, I was talking to my boyfriend. He mentioned, he's like, I just don't think that sounds sustainable. I'm like, well, it's not sustainable, but this is how I'm going to like crush it. I'm going to do this for 8 weeks. He's like, but is that going to be mentally healthy for you to do? I'm like, well, okay, let me think about this. And I decided, no, that is ridiculous. That sounds completely not sustainable. I don't live like that. That would not be worth winning a challenge. I'm in it for the long game. And am I motivated by a challenge to make improvements? Sure. But nothing is worth winning to sacrifice mental health and all of my focus and be out of balance on this one thing and then crash and burn and have burnout. That is not my style. And so I decided, no, I am not going to do that. And I promise after story time is over, I'm going to bring it home with some actionable tips for all of us to achieve goals. Decided not to do this crazy, way over the top plan, but I did decide to do a few things that are in alignment with my word of the year. My word of the year is intention. And so I've been trying to, wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, just remember the intention that I have for that thing. So basically being present, not multitasking, and really showing up and doing the best that I can for that day, for that one-on-one session, for that workout, just doing the best that I can for that day with intention, doing something excellently in the moment. And so not doing anything over the top and crazy and unsustainable. So that's what I decided to do. I said, okay, I know that typically when I go into Orange Theory, some days I try to do that, but I don't always hit the mark with that. So my goal was to go and do those workouts and just raise the bar slightly, do what I can do. So sometimes, and if you've never been to an Orange Theory, there's running, rowing, and weightlifting or body weight stuff like weight floor. And so I know some days I perform below what I know that I can for that day. Like that just happens. But for the challenge, I decided, no, I'm going to do what I can do for that day while I'm here. I'm here for an hour. Why would I not just do what I can do and push myself ever so slightly? Didn't want to get injured. I'm almost 40 years old. So I get injured. Honestly, it feels like very quickly if I push myself. So I knew I couldn't do that, but I could just dial it up a little bit. Going to follow the workouts, do exactly what was prescribed. And that was in the gym. As far as what I was eating, what I was drinking, like all of those things, I really didn't change very much at all. I was a little more intentional, but again, only to the extent that I made changes that I know I can sustain. So just being intentional with being present, doing what I could do, having and following a plan and just doing it. And it felt really good. I was like, okay, I knew I got stronger. I could tell even about halfway through the 8 weeks. I'm like, all right, I'm definitely feeling stronger. I didn't notice any like huge differences because I wasn't trying to like shred up or do anything crazy, but I was like, wow, this is great. I'm pushing myself a little bit and I'm getting stronger. This feels awesome. And it feels like just rewarding and something I could continue doing. So flash forward to, was it yesterday? I went into the gym and one of the coaches was like, hey, do you know that you won the challenge? And at first my reaction was, I honestly felt embarrassed. I did not feel like, yeah, oh my gosh, I won the challenge, because that wasn't my goal. And that wasn't my expectation. I thought, and this is where the takeaways start coming in my mind, it was like, the only way that I'm going to win this is if I go crazy and do all the things, all the things I mentioned at the beginning. That's the only way. I was like, that's the only way I'm going to win, because that's just what it is. That's how you would achieve that goal, would just be to go crazy. Like there's so much competition, blah, blah, blah. Like no way. So I just had this different goal set for myself, but I won the challenge and I got embarrassed. I'm like, well, that's weird. Now if people are like, wow, what was your strategy? And I'm like, I just went easy on myself and did what I normally do. Like that doesn't sound very exciting or sexy, or like I'm going to do that and just take it easy or whatever. But it's not, when I really started thinking about it, because then today they're like, oh, can we take your picture and blah, blah, blah with this sign? I'm like, oh, this is so cheesy and embarrassing. And like, I'm never telling anyone this. And then I realized I'm absolutely going to talk about this, but I'm not going to talk about, I won the Orange Theory Transformation Challenge. That's not what it's about, but it's about why I ended up winning that, and the mindset of, okay, think about it. One thing, and you've heard me say this a million times, and I don't care if this is in your online business. I don't care if this is in your fitness. I don't care if it's your nutrition, hydration, your relationship. I don't care what category it is, but I know that consistency is going to win over willy-nilly and peaks and valleys and pushing and running and stopping all day long term, which is what we should be in it for in any of those categories: relationships, your health, your business. Consistency is going to absolutely crush the competition. That is what most people will not do. And I think sometimes, and I fall into this, obviously I fall into this in that category, but in business too, we look around and we're like, oh, surely we need to be doing this wild and crazy, 60-day run or whatever it might be. Yeah, there is some value to that. But what I would rather see, and what I've seen to be as effective in growing and sustaining a successful brand since 2016 online, is being consistent with your content, being consistent with your messaging, being consistent in showing up well, but not necessarily in some crazy format all the time. That's not what it takes. What most people won't do is stick with it. Post 3 times a week for 10 years, right? Like, doesn't have to be posting every day, 2 times a day for 3 months. It doesn't have to be that. So consistency is so huge. And then when you want to escalate things, when you want to achieve a goal, when you want to take things next level, you dial it up a notch. You don't crank it up all the way. You're dialing it up a notch or 2, and you realize, all right, like, I'm stepping it up, but I have the foundation to step it up without burning out, without getting injured. And so the goal is to be consistent in whatever you're doing. And of course, we're talking about business a lot in here, but I think all these things, I tell you this all the time, but all these things are parallels, right? They all are parallels. But in business, I would rather see my clients, and I'd rather see all of you, all of us, be consistent and build up that consistency muscle. So with content, posting 5 days a week, 3 to 5 days a week, consistently within your brand pillars, repurposing that content over and over and over at whatever level feels doable, maybe slightly challenging, but doable, to borrow from an Orange Theory term, but there's a reason they use that, right? And then when you go next level, you turn it up 1 notch, 2 notches, and then that's your new consistent, but you have a foundation to build upon so that you're not exhausted. I think that's a huge missed piece, and why so often we don't get started, or we don't take things next level, because we get in our minds that it has to be this whole other thing, and it doesn't. It's just dialing up a notch to where you can sustain that long term, and then 6 months, a year later, dialing it up another notch, another couple notches, whatever you're prepared to sustain and what feels good. And so my takeaway from winning that challenge randomly was, that's all I did. I had the foundation. I knew what I could do. I knew what I had been doing consistently. I continued doing that part, and I dialed it up a notch or 2 and did the best that I could do for each day. And some days those were drastically different, right? And that's okay. But I didn't quit halfway through. I didn't start doing something completely different, positively or negatively, that would impact things either way. It's more that long game mentality, and knowing that my goal for myself, wasn't to win, but it was to improve, and to see at the end of that 8 weeks, okay, I'm going to do what I set out to do, and then I'm going to see the improvement. And I knew I would improve. Happy byproduct is now I get my gym membership paid for a little bit, which is like, yay, awesome. But that wasn't even my goal. But it was a lesson to me that, when I did tell my boyfriend about it, he's like, oh, this is kind of interesting, because I remember having the conversation and you decided that you weren't really going to try super hard. I'm like, well, I did try, but I didn't, you're right. I didn't try super hard. He's like, well, what was everyone else doing? I'm like, I don't know. I'm sure other people absolutely and did improve as well. But the one thing that we forget is that a lot of people will not see things through. They won't be consistent. So in your mind, don't make your success and your progress this mind monster that in order for that to happen, you have to just go psycho in whatever endeavor you're doing. It doesn't have to be that way. For you to stand out and rise above the competition in your industry, in your niche, in your work, in whatever it is you're doing, a huge part of it is you just not quitting, you being consistent and willing to continue doing what you said you would do. It doesn't have to necessarily be, is this making sense? I hope so. I've got another point. So knowing your end goal. So what do people who do achieve their goals do differently that the people who don't are missing out on? It's having an end goal in mind. So knowing where you're headed. So whatever your process is for knowing where you're headed, whether that's getting a coach, getting a mentor, talking to someone who's been steps ahead of you, talking to your husband, talking to your partner, talking to a friend, where you figure out what does it look like? Where are you trying to head? And then what are the steps to get there? So whatever your goal is, you have that in mind, and that is clear. So in the Orange Theory transformation scenario, my goal was not to win. My goal was to make a transition. So to lose some body fat, to gain some muscle. The weight I wasn't really concerned about. I did end up, I think overall cumulative, I lost, it was about 3 pounds only, but I gained muscle. So, it kind of does this weird thing. So for me, it was decrease my body fat percentage and gain some muscle. And so that was like, it wasn't like a real specific, this amount of pounds or whatever, but I wanted to see those two things move in the directions that I wanted them to. So I had that goal in mind. So for your business, so knowing where you're headed, if you're wanting to create consistent content, what is the goal for that? So for most of you, the goal for creating consistent, captivating content that literally is speaking to your target audience, and you're knowing your target audience, that's going to be for sales conversion. So maybe you don't have, I want to have 10 new customers a month. Maybe that's your goal. Or maybe your goal is more like, I want to learn how to create content consistently that leads to sales. So maybe baseline is content that actually converts into customers, clients, money, right? Impact and income. So knowing what your goal actually is, and then creating the steps to work toward that point. That is huge. Another piece when I was thinking through, okay, well, what about this analogy, like in real life analogy, is applicable? And that is people who achieve their goals have I would say like a support system. And that can it can be a support system around you who knows your goals, a support system around you who can help you to achieve your goals. And this can be a mentor. This can be a coach. It could even be peers, but someone who is helping them to figure out those steps to get to where they're headed. If you're not abundantly clear on that, for me, I have 3 different business coaches that I love to work with. And I will either do sessions with them, or I will do, at this point in my business, I will do sessions with them, or I will do purchase a course. If they put out something or there's something that I'm like, I need help with that, I will do that. And then I will figure out, okay, what are the steps to get me to this end point? And so having a support system around you. So whether that's in the gym, and one of the reasons I like going to Orange Theory is because it's programmed. There's a coach there that is pushing me or checking in. It was funny at the end, one of the coaches, the last week, is like, how are you feeling? You've been stepping it up. How's your body feeling? Are you, doing okay? I was like, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm not, I definitely am pushing myself more, but no, I feel good. No injuries. And he was like, okay, awesome. Keep kicking butt. I'm like, okay, great. So having a coach or support system who knows your goals and who can help you to adjust along the way, that's another thing that people who achieve their goals do. Okay. And that's tied into having a plan and knowing where you're going and working towards that, and not being willy-nilly flying by the seat of your pants, sitting down to create content for the day or the week. And you're like, I don't know how this is going to lead me toward my goals. I just feel like doing it, or I don't know. I'm posting every day, but what is the plan? What's the vision? What's the long-term plan? Where is this all leading day in and day out? And I used to do this too. And that's where consistency will win over everything, because even though it's not going to skyrocket you by being willy-nilly, at least willy-nilly posting consistently is going to have you beating out 90% of the competition who won't get started or who drop off. Right? But what would be better is if you had a system for consistency and a strategy with your content that has purpose toward your goals. Does that make sense? And again, this is in any scenario, you can do things willy-nilly. As long as you're consistent, you're
going to get there, but it's going to be like this. Versus consistency plus a system gets you on this trajectory. So that's a huge piece of achieving goals and achieving goals more quickly. And now when it comes to content, bringing this back to content with AI and chat GTP, it's like on crack. Like all of that can be completely on crack because it takes, oh my God, I'm going to show you guys once I'm done with the workbook. I have to just show you like the power of what those of you who are taking the content creation solution are freaking getting, because I've been experimenting with this for some months now and creating prompts that literally, I'm like, if I had this 5 years ago, I'd probably be a freaking millionaire. Jeez, it's nuts. So anyway, I'm really excited to share that. But the last thing, people who achieve their goals, something that they're doing that people who are not necessarily achieve their goals are missing out on, that's not wackadoodle, it's very simple, is being intentional with what they're doing at the time. So if you have a work block, so you block out time on your calendar, or maybe starting there. So being intentional with your time and doing what you said you would do, keeping the promise to yourself to do what you said you were going to do during that time block intentionally. So you're at the gym, you're doing the best that you can for that day. You're not multitasking. You're not hopping off the treadmill to go check your phone, or you pee before you take the class. So you're not leaving. And, that's a little bit of a weird, silly example, but you're there, you're present. You're going to focus on what you're doing for that hour, and then you're going to leave that behind. You did what you did for that day, move along. You sit down, the kids are in school. You've got an hour or two to work. You sit down, you have your plan for what you are going to do and where, and you need to check off those boxes, and then you're done. You're not sitting down at the computer with no freaking plan, no idea, and no grand scheme of what it is that's going on in your business, and just picking something. Like that is such a waste of time. And I've done it. I've totally done it. But knowing the difference now, I'm like, oh my gosh, like you will skyrocket yourself to the moon with a plan and dedicating your intention and your time to what it is that you're doing in that moment, checking those boxes, move it along. When your kids come home, spending that intentional time, you're with your kids, bust out a board game or whatever else, no multitasking, because if you're doing the things that you said you would do and you have a plan, you can do them and move along. Close that, like compartmentalize. And I know that's hard. I know there's definitely seasons where that can be harder than others. And sometimes we totally fail at that. I definitely do. But we're looking at the overall, the long term. What does your life look like? What does your business look like? What does your time with your loved ones look like? What does your prayer life look like? What do all these areas look like? If overall you can look at it and say, yes, I'm being consistent over the long term, because in all those things, faith, business, life, love, you're in it for the long term. That's what you want. You want something that is sustainable, growing, and good. So if you're being consistent, you're seeking support when you need it, you always have your end goal in mind, which is usually growth. And maybe there's a specific end goal, but certainly a goal related to some type of growth. And you're being intentional with the time that you're spending on that particular category. And you just consistently do that, you're going to crush it. You're going to crush it in all the areas. And there are going to be times when you're like, oh, I'm not perfect. Yeah, no crap. Nobody's perfect. We're going to fail in all the things. We're going to have off days and on days, and we've got PMS in play. We've got all kinds of things that throw us off. But overall, remember, it's not about some grand gesture one time. It's not about some, this 90-day run is not going to change everything if you can't sustain it. It's going to be your mindset on the long-term vision and being consistent with doing the things that you need to do. And if you don't know the things you need to do, then get with someone who can help you to figure out those steps in any area, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a personal trainer, whether it's, in the gym, like Orange Theory or CrossFit or whatever you want to do that gives you a program, or you pay for some sort of program, a life coach, a mentor, a business coach, a an upline, a different upline than yours, like whatever it is, like get with someone who can say, hey, this is what you need to do. Your goal is to grow. Here's what you need to do in order to grow. And then it's up to you to consistently execute on that plan. And I promise you, it doesn't have to be hard. It really doesn't. And that was my takeaway for myself that I wanted to share with you was we sometimes get into the trap of thinking that to create change and to create this beautiful life and thriving business and, relationship and, be this great mother, that it takes these over the top things, and it actually doesn't. That's not the secret sauce. It's not. It's growing steadily, consistently, so that you can turn up the notch. You can turn up the notch and it's going to move the needle and you're not going to burn out. That's the goal. At least that's the goal for me. That is like best life status in all the areas. And so I hope this was helpful. I feel like it was helpful for me to talk through. And so I hope that there was something that resonated with you. And if there was, please let me know. I think that's all I have for you today. Brief reminder that the content creation solution, where you are going to be basically given my consistent, captivating content strategy and system that you can tailor to your own brand, which is a combination of the things that artificial intelligence and systems can't replace. And that's you dialing into your story, your voice, your message. You need to have that as a personal brand to stand out. I don't care what anyone tells you, unless you're a straight up online marketer and you're just building funnels and stuff like that. AI is not the only thing you need. However, the gasoline, the freaking torch lamp on this is utilizing modern strategies and being one of the first people in the social marketing space and the influencer space to really learn how to use ChatGPT and AI for our type of business. That's different than someone who's a straight up online marketer. Those are the things that I'm going to teach you. So you're going to walk away with an understanding of how to incorporate that into creating content and having a never ending flow of content ideas, and also knowing how to maximize that so that you can have more time and more energy and more bandwidth to show up as the best version of you online in your business, and more importantly, offline with your family, with your loved ones, in your community, so that you're making impact. We talk about impact and income, that you're making impact in all the ways. Like the point of creating income online, which we can scale in the ways that we can, especially with this new technology. The point of that is so that you can be the best version that you were created to be in the world, online, offline, and go out and make the impact that only you can. So that's what I'm here to teach. And I'm so excited to get started on the Monday. It's like the 28th is the first training drop. Don't miss out. It's going to be game changing. Content repurposing, we're going to talk about in the content creation solution, but this piece of content, which was not planned, and I think was, this is again, AI cannot teach this part, cannot replace this part. I'll take this. This is going to be my podcast episode for the week. I'll download that transcript. That will go on the blog with SEO. The audio and maybe video actually of this will go on to YouTube once it's edited. This will also become at least one static feed post on Facebook and Instagram. This will become, I will create a sound clip from this that will become a reel. I'll share both of those to stories. Those will go to YouTube shorts. It goes on and on and on, but this took 30 minutes of my time, and I will have 10 to 12 points of content. And that's not even using AI. So I'm telling you, I am going to hook you up with your content system based on my templates, but it's all going to be customizable. It's all in Canva. You're going to be able to take it and just crush it and keep slowly turning up that dial until you're wherever you want to be. All right. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. My goal is to help as many women in business online as possible to build strong, powerful, aligned, and profitable personal brands. The best way to show you appreciate this content is to screenshot and share on your social media or share with your team. Actually, even better would be to also leave a review for the podcast on whichever platform you're listening on. If you are looking for any additional support, you can always reach me via email at hello@elevatedwithashley.com. You can DM me on Instagram at Ashley R. Latimer, or join us in the free Elevate Academy for brand building, maverick marketers, and mompreneurs Facebook community. Can't wait to chat with you next week.